Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from RealityArtPod here to give my Week 7 player rankings of Big Brother 26. These rankings are based on how well I think the players are doing as of the end of the Thursday night eviction episode. So spoiler warning is effect, I'll be talking about the 7th evicted house guest. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description where you can catch up on my previous recaps and rankings. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing, but let's dive into it. Starting with our 7th evicted house guest in Joseph, who last week I had ranked in last. Joseph came into this week in a bad place, not knowing how bad it was. If most people want HOH, he was going to touch the block from both bad placement in the house and just being obnoxious and talking down the other players, making them both offended and annoyed with him. Quinn wins the HOH, which was a great outcome for him, as he and Quinn had bonded early in the season, confessing their super fandom to each other, though I think they've both done a bad job at hiding their fandom, so that barely means anything anymore. With his implied safety, Joseph continued his ego trip throughout the house, talking himself up and comparing himself to Dr. Will, and talking down to the women in the house, telling Mackenzie that she's a jury layup, and Chelsea that he's playing just as good a game as her, then insulting Angela, who was kind of one foot out the door, and telling her that she was effed, which played a big part in Leah actually using the veto on Angela and Joseph going up on the block. Even still, he wasn't the house target, with the consensus target still being on Chemo and Rubina, but his comments lingered with the women and ultimately he gets voted out by 4 women, which is coincidentally also enough jury votes to win the game. In 9th, I have Quinn, who was 4th last week. I feel like he was in good with everybody. T-Core and Chemo were protecting him. He just voted out his nemesis Tucker. Chelsea and the gang were feeling good about him. Quinn did not need to win this HOH, yet he did. And when he does, he has no finesse. He pisses off T-Core within hours of him winning this competition when he told T-Core that he was going to nominate Rubina and Chemo. I think she gets the Rubina nomination because Quinn has nominated her before, but nominating Chemo and turning on the Visionaries was very decisively ending that chapter. He made a mistake because T-Core has been protecting Quinn behind closed doors for weeks now and is a big part of why Quinn got away with everything that he did. Quinn is also completely getting dog walked by Leah consistently and he's aware of it. He likes her, but she talks so much crap about him, and it's really funny that he consulted Leah all week only for her to save his target from the block, and it's really funny that he nominated probably his closest actual ally, and then his ally went home on his HOH, and Joseph was probably a potential jury vote for Quinn, maybe the only person who respects how he plays the game. I also think it's really strange that this whole game, he's been such a rat that says that nobody can trust him, but he ended up in such a moral predicament this week about the nominations. It probably would have been better for his game to keep being a rat, but he wanted to be true to way too many people, and now T-Core and her friends are coming for him heavy, and his army is Leah and Angela. It's not looking good. He prophesized that he could be sitting next to Angela on the block, and I think that could happen eventually. In 8th, I'm putting Chemo, who last week was 9th. I had Chemo and Joseph as my bottom 2 last week, saying they were likely house targets, and what do you know, they both ended up on the block at the end of the week. Chemo spends the week getting nominated and hanging out with T-Core and Rubina. That's it. There was no real effort to stay, just letting T-Core do all the work. He survived this vote, and I think he can eke by maybe a week or two, but an all-women final 6 is very tempting, and T-Core and Chelsea would both only have to lose one male soldier to have it happen, which could be agreeable on both sides. It really was bad for Chemo that T-Core had openly chosen Rubina over him and is not willing but accepting that she's gonna have to lose Chemo eventually. The only thing keeping him above Quinn is I think Quinn was more actively bad in general and this week. In 7th, I have Cam, who was 6th last week. After being a meme of doing nothing in the game, he got more active in the game, participating in the Tucker blindside, but this week he is a short safety from Quinn, which is great, but he spends most of the week cuddling with Mackenzie and pissing off Chelsea, who was really taking care of him in the game, and Chelsea was saying she was over him to the extent that she shut him out of the vote and made him look like a fool for voting for Chemo. I think he's in the same boat as Chemo, but I have more faith in Cam to win a competition and be safe than Chemo, though I think if either of them are on the block with, say, Angela, they go home. In 6th, I'm putting Angela, who last week was 8th. She came into this week in a bad spot as someone who's likely to go on the block for most HOHs, and having just lost Tucker, who was going to protect her no matter what. Her nemesis Quinn wins HOH, and it's certain that Angela's going on the block. She was nominated, of course, and she actually plays it well, being super understanding of the nomination and not causing any public fights with Quinn over it. She works on her relationship with Leah, and I would give Angela some credit for that. She also impressed me following the Joseph conversation where he insulted her. She really successfully played the victim about it, and I've talked about this before, but there are certain people who really sing siren-like victim noises. I think Riley last season was really almost there. If she just had a few more years, she could have been on Angela's level. So Angela cries to Leah and puts Leah in a place where, yes, Angela wasn't begging Leah to use the veto on her, but she really put Leah at odds with her morals and gave her no choice but to use the veto on her. I can't move her higher because she almost went home this week. She would have ended up on the block against Chemo, and I still think Chemo would have gone home. And I think she could be on the block against any of the 3 remaining men and stay. If she makes it to around final 6, there's even some more runway for her to make it further, but I'm losing hope in the potential for an Angela win. In 5th, I have Leah, who was 5th last week. She was in a great spot coming into this week, playing the middle floater game, and she had all of the straight men in the house in a chokehold. Quinn wins the HOH, which is fantastic for Leah, and she's guaranteed safety because he's her dog on a leash. She looked so good in yellow that he forgave her for using the veto on Angela, which did kind of purchase Angela's loyalty, even to the extent that Angela voted the wrong way with Leah this week and followed her bad read, but I think that's Leah's biggest problem is that her leads are so bad. In a house that's getting down in numbers like this, it doesn't really matter as much, but her reads were really bad in the beginning, and an early HOH win would have been really an absolute disaster. The choice to save Angela was very emotional, and Angela's probably a jury vote for Leah, but it's just the jury now, and you're squatting up for this last phase of the game. You sub in Angela for Joseph. That to me is crazy, especially because Joseph was under her thumb and could have won comps and done her bidding, and Angela's so unpredictable. I see a lot of tweets saying that Leah's running the house and going to win the show, and let's not go too far and be dramatic. She won one veto and kind of misplayed it. She's in 5th. In 4th, I have Mackenzie, who last week was 7th. I approach with caution when praising Mackenzie because I feel like her reads are so bad that she's messed up her good positioning in the past, but this week she had her safety in Quinn's HOH and used it to really work on her relationships. She obviously has her flirtmans with Cam, but she's also cozied up with Chelsea and has put herself in a position where she went along with Chelsea on the Joseph vote. She's in a pretty good spot right now and has won 3 competitions that have all proven super clutch. I feel like if they let her get a few more rounds, they're really going to regret it because she's going to kick everyone's ass in the endgame if she makes it. In 3rd, I'm putting Rubina, who was 3rd last week. I get a lot of comments about my rankings because by the time I finish writing it, recording it, and posting it, there's a new HOH. Sometimes they've already decided their nominations. Sometimes I find out who the HOH is while I'm editing and I'm like, oh, my ranking blows. I'd rank Rubina as 3rd because I felt like Tucker leaving was going to be great for her game. And then Quinn won HOH, and for a large portion of this week, Rubina was going home. And I was going to rank her lowly, but she campaigned her ass off all week long. She worked really hard and showed a lot of promise in her game ability. I feel like now she and Mackenzie are in a similar spot in the game and could really be interchangeable here, but I think Rubina has more current respect from the other players, and I think Rubina clears a jury vote against anyone other than our top 2. In 2nd, I have Chelsea, who was 1st last week, and Quinn winning HOH was great for her. She was safe, she didn't actually do much for most of the week, but Joseph was getting on her nerves, so she was willing to depart from Quinn's wishes and join up with T-Core to vote out Joseph. I'll talk more about reasons she's 2nd. I guess I'll just talk about number 1. In T-Core, who was 2nd last week, she was on the outs of the Tucker vote, but she was HOH, which gave Quinn a crazy loophole to not nominate T-Core. She really should have been the replacement nominee instead of Joseph for Quinn, considering that he'd already turned on her and pissed her off, but she didn't let it show that she was agitated and ended up being safe, secured the safety. The reason I have her as number 1 over Chelsea is in her diary rooms, she said that she was specifically going to use the fracture between Chelsea and Cam to get Chelsea's vote in this eviction, and while I do think Chelsea wanted to vote Joseph out anyway, Chelsea is having fractures in her mini group, and T-Core's trio is solid as ever. Also, nobody ever talks about taking T-Core out before her friends, so as long as they're around, she basically has 2 bonus lives in the game. So those are my rankings for week 7. Let me know in the comments, what are your rankings? I love to read them and respond. I'm always yapping in the comments, and we don't always agree, but we get along. I'll be back next Thursday to talk about more Big Brother. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing so you don't miss it. Until then, have the best weekend. Bye.